You're listening to the Topco Business Unusual podcast. Now, the Business Unusual podcast. Learn from the greatest minds in business today. Interviews hosted by Ralf Fletcher. Learn how to improve business, get tips from industry leaders, and be motivated by real-life experience. Topco Business Unusual.
So welcome to this week's edition of Topco's podcast, Business Unusual. And this week I'm here with Greig Jansen, the founder, CEO of PURA Drinks. Welcome, Greig, and it's great having you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Ralf. Welcome to fantastic to be here. Thank you for the invite.
So I suppose we've got so much to talk about: entrepreneurship, starting businesses, culture, working in big companies, and scaling small companies. But maybe just for context, give us a little bit of a background to your early life or career. What got you into business, and what got you here?
Yeah, thank you. So, basically, not from South Africa, from Zambia and Zimbabwe. School down here in South Africa. Did university at Maritzburg Varsity. Had a fantastic time there. Did the proverbial, 1 or 2 extra years to finish the degree, just to make sure that got the partying out of the system. And then certainly from there went into business. My first real job was with Woolworths. My formal qualifications: I have a BSc honors in horticulture, a postgrad in business management and business finance, and then an MBA in strategic finance. So went into the retail space with Woolworths. Was fantastic in the buying division, actually in horticulture, which was really fascinating. Just getting to understand how the world of retail works. From there, moved into trading in Southern Africa, and then trading internationally. And that was also really, really fantastic type of experience. Just learning how to speak to different people, negotiate with different people, understanding the different dynamics of different cultures. I remember one incident when there was a tripartite deal that was going on, and on the one side I had someone from South America, I think hot Latin blood, and a Chinese man on the other side, and myself in the middle trying to pull it all together. And it's just amazing how, if you can think of Chinese way of doing business and hot Latin blood and emotion and passion, pulling that deal together was a phenomenal learning experience. And really from there, managed to do a good job, moved into general management, and I suppose ultimately culminating into me heading up Coke in Ethiopia, which was absolutely fascinating in terms of both career development, phenomenal learning experience from a phenomenal multinational, and then also just the nuances and experience one gets from working in a very, very interesting environment. And that's kind of got me to PURA. I mean, the expertise I picked up, the insights that I learned were certainly garnished while at Coca-Cola. And then I suppose, ultimately, one of the reasons why I ended up starting a healthier beverage company is linked to my own personal beliefs and hobbies. I'm pretty sporty. So ultimately, loved the refreshment that a Coca-Cola would offer, but wanted something a little bit healthier. And kind of 5.5 years later, here we are.
For sure, here we are. But geez, I mean, you're in 13 countries. You're in the US. I mean, tell us a little bit about where we are with PURA right now.
Yeah, thank you. Look, it's been a really, really great road. It's been a challenging road, but we certainly believe in possibility, and we've had some phenomenal people who've helped build the business along the way, and to some phenomenal people who've backed and supported the brand and the business. So, Southern Africa is our provenance market. We're in all major retail in Southern Africa and have a pretty good presence with all products across our range. We supply into most SADC countries. We do a little bit into the Middle East, but really our big growth geography is the US, where we've been very fortunate to be listed in the likes of a Walmart, Aldi. We've got listings now to Target, and we're closing out with Costco. So we've got some very nice big retailers coming on board. But all the clever guys tell me this is when the hard work really starts, and I think they're right. So.
Okay, I suppose so. So I mean, it's quite a thing, and I mean, there's a couple of articles around how you did $1 million in sales in one day at one of the conferences you went to in the States. I mean, that's quite phenomenal.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the scope and scale of the US is absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, you can't actually fully comprehend it until you're there. Simply put, whatever the number is, between 330 and 350 million people from a population point of view, the average GDP per capita is roughly around $60,000 a year, compared to South Africa around $6,000 a year. So pretty much, depending on what product you have, everyone has in some shape or form disposable income. Everyone is geared towards buying things. It's definitely a consumer-driven society. So literally the numbers are massive. So, that seems huge to us, but in the US, it's a small number.
Yeah, but I think the point is that there's a lot of people who know that, right? They know the US is a big market. They know there's all these possibilities, and they know they can probably do it. But you got off your ass and you went out there and you made it happen. And so I'm always intrigued with people like you, action-orientated people like you. Did that come out of a need, a necessity? I mean, where did that come from? That sort of that drive to make things happen.
Yeah, so I think inherently as a person, you either have it to an extent or you don't. I think trying to teach someone to have drive, it is possible, but it's a whole lot better if inherently that is built into a person's DNA. And just talking briefly previously, I think a lot of it's got to do with my sporting background. And the simple element is, sports person, and you want to do better, you literally have to get off your bum, get off the couch, get out there and make it happen. No one's going to go to the Olympics or world champs or any one of these big audacious events if you haven't put in the hard work. And there's a very fine line between motivation and kind of like dedication. And motivation will only get you so far, but there's many days that motivation doesn't exist, and that's when kind of dedication just has to take over. And I think it's very similar in business. I mean, if you think it through and you're logical about things, and I definitely believe people should set audacious goals and targets. And once you've set the audacious goal and target, it's literally a case of simply sitting down and saying, okay, so what are the stepping stones to getting there? And I suppose, again, to your original question, I think a lot of it stems from my sporting background, where I believe in the art of possibility. I don't think anything is impossible. Having known the beverage background, having had a beverage background, knowing the beverage landscape, having been exposed to the US, and having seen a blue sky opportunity in terms of something healthier that still is super tasty and refreshing, my mind went to, well, if someone's going to do it, why can't it be me? And applying that sports logic to it was, okay, right, what do we need to do to get this going?
But I mean, there was a lot you had to do to get it going. I mean, for starters, you had to give up a good corporate gig, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we were speaking earlier about Ethiopia and some of the challenges you had there. I mean, do you want to talk about that? Because I think it sort of sets the frame. In some ways, your move from Zambia to Zimbabwe, from Zimbabwe to South Africa, that in itself tells a unique story about, I suppose, your character.
Yeah, look, I mean, I suppose Ethiopia, from a career point of view, was, some of the hardest days, but also at the same time, some of the most rewarding. Areas like this that are hardship countries are exactly that. They are certainly hardship countries. People in South Africa complain about load shedding. Certainly in countries like that, at the time I was there was no electricity. I mean, we basically on generator 22 hours a day. If you're lucky, you ran out of water once or twice a week. So it just is what it is. You just kind of get on with it and kind of make it happen. But I suppose very, very fundamental learning blocks from my time in Ethiopia, simply put, is you either sink or swim in these territories, and it's really, a lot of it is down to mindset, and it's not my personal mindset. It's almost like an African mindset. And what you see in Africa is you see people who make the most amazing plans to get things done. Whether it's from a lack of resources, they will still build something, or just making things happen. I mean, it's actually very, very rewarding to see how people get things done, and certainly that rubbed off a lot on me. Where, yeah, I mean, there's so many interesting stories. I mean, I suppose one of the most interesting stories is, I'll never forget, a month before I started, the Horn of Africa, or Ethiopia specifically, has always struggled with foreign exchange. And a month before I started, there were foreign exchange shortages in country. And I remember going and having a look, and Coca-Cola wasn't running because couldn't afford to import the concentrate, didn't have the dollars, and Pepsi were even bottling with 7-Up caps on the Pepsi bottles. So it was quite an interesting situation. So my mandate was to get in there and just see if I could get the business running. I mean, it's quite a big employee in the country, and Ethiopia is certainly one of the big population countries in Africa. So it's on the radar in terms of growth for Africa. So I got in there and did what any self-respecting exec would do. I went and saw all the banks, and luckily, Coca-Cola carries weight. Got to see all the presidents of the banks, and of course, everyone's like, 100%. We'll help you out with foreign exchange as soon as we get it. Not a problem. And that was my first week. And I remember going back to where I was staying, going, jeepers, what a phenomenal first week I had. Spoke to all the bank managers. 10 out of 10 said to me, no problem. We're going to sort out your issues. I thought to myself, whoa, I can't wait to get this cracking. 3 weeks later, I was still twiddling my thumbs, phoning the guys up. No, don't worry. As soon as it comes, we're going to make it happen. And quite right there, and then I realized, again, your mindset is what drives you. And I think another big skill that I learned in Ethiopia is just always just take a step back. Try get a helicopter view of what's going on. Try simplify things. And through simplification, it becomes easier to understand, the pathway to success. So in this specific example, I look back and, I've seen, right, how do the dynamics of the country work? And the current regime at the time, or the president at the time, had been in power, I think, for 19 years, democratically elected. So, looking a little bit closer at this, I thought, well, if there's going to be anyone who can then help me, it's got to be the president or prime minister. So I marched myself off to the palace, put on my best suit, determined I was going to ask him nicely for money. Long story short, I got chased away by some guys with AK-47s. This was the procedure that followed every day for 3 weeks. And I just thought to myself, well, look, that's clearly the path to success. And I suppose every day I went back home and thought, well, are we sure this is the right way to go? I mean, the guys with the guns were getting a little bit more antsy every day. And eventually, I think I wore him down by, just by my resilience. And he saw me. Yeah. And I had a conversation with him, and I said, look, if you can help out with some foreign exchange and things look good and we're able to grow our business, we'll definitely look at investing in the country. And I suppose that was quite a bold commitment I'd made, but I fundamentally believed in it. And he ended up giving some foreign exchange to us, which restarted the business and culminated in a very deep, seven-figure dollar investment in the area that's continuing today. And Ethiopia is one of the growth vectors for Coke in Africa, based on the opportunities that exist there.
Congratulate! I want to give you a round of applause here, because it's a freaking great story. I mean, you told me before, but geez, man, it's crazy what you did, and kudos to you, because it sort of sets the mark for other things you do later and even before. We shared the same trainer doing triathlons, and we haven't even spoken about that, but you went to Worlds, and did you win SHMs, or I wasn't really sure, but I know you went to Worlds for Xterra. You must have.
Yeah, I went to Worlds. Was fantastic. I raced in Canada. Really enjoyed that. So I suppose, I mean, here's the trick, and I suppose I'll confess it to you, is that I'm an average swimmer, biker, and runner. So I've got to put them all together to be able to compete. So that's my speciality, is sticking them all together, right?
Sticking them all together. So anyway, we share the same trainer, and I told Tim today that I'm doing a podcast with you. So he sends his regards and wonders when you're going to come back and see him. But he mentioned that you also trained with some of the Ethiopian runners. Is that right?
Yeah, jeepers, that's another fascinating story. So
you didn't tell me this one, so I said I'm going to ask for the podcast. This is for Tim, so hopefully he listens.
Yeah, so I mean, Haile Gebrselassie is definitely one of my heroes. Phenomenal runner, and certainly a little less known secret about Haile Gebrselassie is he absolutely loves Fanta Orange. So I saw to myself that he has an in I can get to meet my idol, and I got to meet him, and what a humble man. And the first time I met him, I said, "Oh, look, I run a bit, and love to run with you one day." And he said to me, "Great, we're running like in 2 days' time." So I said, "Fantastic." He said, "Well, come and join us." I said, "Okay, that sounds great." So I said to him, "So what are you doing? 10Ks, whatever." He said, "No, we're doing 18, 19. So like, okay, well, that's fine. I mean, I can do that." He said, normally kilometers an hour, somewhere around there. And
18 or 19
and what's also fascinating is one of the reasons these guys are so good is they train at extreme altitude. So Addis Ababa in Ethiopia is at a height of around 2,500 meters above sea level, and these guys train in the mountains above. So you're roughly around 3,100, 3,200 meters above sea level. So I thought to myself, I'm not going to miss this opportunity. I'm going to go and run with these guys. And it was basically myself running with Haile and about 4 or 5 of the Olympic team. And it's amazing. Like they literally run for like an hour and a half. And it's a very steady pace. So it just depends what session they were running at. The one I joined them with was a steady pace run through the forest, absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. But where they maintain their pace and their heart rate. I mean, I must say, I was watching my heart rate just go up and up and up and up. Like I barely hung on till the end of the session. And that was their first session for the day, and they had a second one. But I can tell you, I got very strong. Let's put it that way from running with these guys.
So you carried on running with them? You went a couple more times?
Listen, let's a couple in the American term of the word, like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
To be honest, I just couldn't keep with them.
Yeah.
So then I discovered the expat running crew, which is a little bit more more my pace. But I think one of the fascinating things is we ended up starting a running series with Halle, and the aim was to basically nurture talent ahead of the Olympics. And what we did is we offered huge prize money so that anyone who had talent could basically come and win enough money to support themselves so they could focus on running. And the people that actually won the series, so we started the series 4 years before the Olympics, and effectively we had 3 winners win 3 gold medals at the Olympics.
Sure.
And they were unknown names, and this was kind of raw talent out of out of the rural areas who could now focus on their running.
I mean, that sort of almost gets me excited, because it's like you said, you're an average runner, cyclist, swimmer. I feel the same, to be perfectly honest with you, and just put them all together and I can do okay. But I think I'm always fascinated with when we give someone a little bit of attention and recognition, what they can achieve. It's kind of scary, right? So is that something you believe in, giving recognition, attention to people and seeing them sort of blow up? Or
yeah, so from a business point of view, that they say everyone likes to be heard and everyone likes to be recognized, and I suppose in a sports world as well, and I think in a sports world, it's a recognition is can also be termed in terms of helping people with their mindset, telling them they can do it, telling them they can achieve, and giving them the space to do that. So I fundamentally do believe in reward and recognition. I think it's very, very important, both in terms of sport and in terms of business. And I think there's also a huge element of us as business leaders that need to coach and nurture talent as well, which it's funny, it's a thing that always kind of disappears off the radar when we pushed for time, and we always pushed for time. And again, if you take that step back, if you're able to coach and nurture talent, you actually just get that much further. So it's certainly something I grapple with every day, and it's certainly something I'm aware that I need to do more of. And I don't know if you can see this, but I actually have a tennis ball on my desk. I don't know if you can see what it says. It says coach, and it's exactly that. It's about reminding myself, to help coach people that I work with, make sure I'm recognizing them in what they're doing, and then also importantly rewarding. And rewarding doesn't only have to be monetary. I mean, there's many ways that we can reward. So it's built intrinsically into how we do business, and I fundamentally believe in it.
Yeah, I mean, we're also speaking. I mean, to make this leap from the safety of, let's call it the safety of Coke in Ethiopia to PURA, that's a big jump, right? I mean, not everybody's got that ability, but and when we spoke before, I was like, was this entrepreneurial thing with you before that? I mean, is this just something that sort of leaped out, or was it there before?
Yeah, so again, I think a good question, and I suppose if you understand, the challenges that I've had personally in my life, and I don't say that as a way of saying things have held me back, because I think it's to the contrary. I think things that transpire in your life, you can either rise to them and learn from them and move forward, or you can let them affect you. And certainly, I'm of that type of person who believes in the art of possibility. So I think it's been bred in me from moving countries at a young age, or from the sports element, or being in Ethiopia, and literally, like I say, it was not a difficult decision to make. It was literally very scientific looking at the market, specifically in the US, being the biggest beverage market in the world. At the moment, it's kind of worth just over $210 billion a year, the non-alcoholic ready-to-drink market. And then understanding that something that I was looking for as a consumer, a healthier product that tasted great, didn't really exist. And literally asking a few, what do they call it, fools, family and friends, if
neighbors,
they had the same type of wishes or needs or wants, and then understanding, from the top, how would I say, trend agencies around the world that basically forecast the move towards health and wellness, the move towards consumers wanting something a bit more natural, cleaner labels, etc. All the trends that you see coming through today. And I suppose from a business perspective, when I piled all of those up, there was this blue sky opportunity to develop something that didn't exist, that was there to take the opportunity of the, not even a trend, like a shift in consumer drinking, for want of a better word. And I remember the logic was this: is, if I was in Coca-Cola, you'd probably be asked to see, how do you kind of jump on trends coming through, versus, well, why don't I see if I can just do this on my own? I mean, I'm going to put in the same effort. I'm going to tap into the same resources. Why not give it a go? And so far we've been successful. So, humbly we keep pressing forward.
Was it harder than you thought it would be?
100%.
A bit like Worlds.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a constant.
Listen, every day. I can't stress enough the importance to surround yourself with people that believe in the journey. And that includes yourself. You definitely have to stare longingly into your own eyes every morning, and just remind yourself, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. And of course you think you can, so let's get going. Another mantra that I normally share with my team is, if things get really tough, in the corner of my office, there's a big bag of cement. Just take a teaspoon of cement and off you go.
Harden the F up. Yeah, we won't say that word.
So,
that's an old cyclist saying that one. I've heard that from my cycling mates.
So a lot of it, you'll see a lot of it is kind of, I suppose, my personal mantra linked to sport, but definitely harder. But the sense of achievement is that much greater. And I suppose the other exciting thing is you get to, I suppose, bring your own personality or beliefs into the business. Our brand, Live a Little Pura, is really based on the premise of, doing small things every day that make a difference. And, fundamentally, I believe in that. And I believe that, anyone who is in a position to make a difference should do so, even if it's something small. No grand gestures are required. And if you think of our product and our brand, our products effectively help people live a little bit healthier, but in an enjoyable way. So, i.e., there's less sugar, none of the bad stuff, but they still taste great, because, with taste being the number one criteria for people when they choose something to eat or drink, not too many people are going to gravitate towards, broccoli juice.
For sure.
So that's been interesting, is just to be able to, flair, personality, but hell damn, it's much harder, for sure.
For sure, yeah. This art of possibility and these small improvements. I was listening to, some podcast today around the British cycling team and how they won nothing for years and years and years and years. And they got a new manager came in and they said, we're going to look at one thing. It's 1% improvements, but over 100 different elements. From when they went into hotels, they took their own pillows to, small minor improvements. And obviously they ended up winning Tour de France. A lot of the guys were English who won, but also that was individual or team, and then in the individuals they won at the Olympics many gold medals. I mean, what's your sense there of this? I suppose this sports connotation of looking at small improvements and adding it to the business, is that part of the?
Yeah, so I think again, I think in terms of using that as an example, I mean, sleep is critical for both business and for sport. So I could imagine a comfy pillow, both in terms of business travel and and in terms of sport, would be a very welcome addition, especially on some long haul flights, right?
Yeah.
So there is the physical element of it, but I also think there's the psychosemantic element of it, where success breeds success, and if you're celebrating small wins and you focusing on small wins, it's amazing. Big wins start to happen, but I think what's happening in the background is you're starting to believe more and more and more that you can do it. You're starting to believe that 1 + 1 = 4. And literally, I'm a very, very strong believer in mindset, and certainly I've been fortunate enough in Coke to basically attend a few leadership colleges, and one of the things that we were exposed to were some of the mind coaches, for example, that the South African the English rugby team were exposed to. And a lot of it is around this kind of 1%, but it's also about where's your mind? Like visualize the win, visualize things getting better, visualize you guys working better as a team. And I suppose from a business point of view, if I'm just thinking as I'm talking, we probably don't do enough of that as a team. Do the team collectively see the business as a success? Because there's no success without a team, So I think there's certainly a business opportunity in that, but certainly an opportunity to leverage that angle and increase the performance of one's business.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just want to circle back a little bit, because I think that sometimes we can look at this situation and go, wow, this guy's lucky. Like, he went from Coke and he saw an opportunity, and then, wow, he started this brand and it all worked for him. But I think when we spoke, one of the things that became clear is this was not the first time that this happened. And I mean, maybe you want to talk around your sort of apprenticeship as a trader and why you became a trader, and then what happened, because that's it. sort of like, it's I don't know if it's your swan song into doing this in a way.
Yeah, like so again, it's just mindset, but it's quite a funny story, because I remember going from Woolworths into trading, and I went into Oceana Holdings, and I wanted to leverage trading skills, and my ultimate ambition was to be an oil trader, because I remember seeing a couple of ads on TV and thinking, cheapers, like oil traders, pretty cool title, they must make the big bucks. It'd be phenomenal to kind of get into that sphere. And I suppose as a young, whatever I was, 23, 24, leaving Woolworths, that was also phenomenal from a learning point of view. Certainly one of the premier retailers in the country, to go trading. I thought, cheapers, this is going to be like an amazing experience. And my boss, who was a very, very wily seasoned campaigner or trader, and I remember he sent me down to the docks to negotiate and buy fish from the Portuguese fishermen. And what a humbling experience, going from one of the top retailers in the land, always dressed in smart clothes, to going down to the docks at all hours to buy fish from the Portuguese fishermen. But again, these are opportunities that are presented to you, and you can either go, well, like, that's kind of not what I was expecting, Or you can say, well, look, here's the stage. I'm now on stage. The curtain has now lifted, and now it's my turn to either dance or sing or do whatever I can. And I'm a firm believer that if someone gives you the opportunity, you've got to make the most of it. And I'm certain that's something that I've done in my career. I've also been very fortunate where I've had people take chances on me in my career. And I'd always advocate to anyone and also to my team is always give people chances and allow them an opportunity to shine. But at the same time, I would basically highly recommend to anyone who is given this opportunity is that grab it with open hands and see what you can make of it. So kind of an extension of the trading story. From kind of trading with the local fishermen and effectively having fish sold into 2 countries in the world primarily only. So from South Africa into Spain and into Italy. It was really looking and going, well, if you look at the world map is huge. Where do people eat fish? All around the world. Where do people can fish? All around the world. Like, surely you're missing an opportunity. And it's being bold enough to stand by your convictions and the research that you've done and basically say, well, I think there's an opportunity within that. And that's what I did. I went to my boss at the time and audaciously said, look, I think there are markets that we are missing. And, I've done a whole lot of research. I did a phenomenal PowerPoint presentation. I'm very proud of it. And basically managed to convince him to buy an around-the-world ticket. Can't remember how many countries I did, but it was definitely several. I think it was 14, 15, 16, somewhere around there. And I literally went from east to west around the world. But, with that, I opened up new markets and effectively some of them became the most profitable markets. So I opened up Japan. Japan's a huge country for fish. India, fantastic sourcing. Samoa, phenomenal canning. So really went to some interesting places. But I suppose the lesson in this is if someone gives you an opportunity, take it, but then also create that opportunity for yourself and don't be shy to instead of waiting for your ship to come in, proverbially rather swim out to it. Yeah, rather swim out to your ship.
I love this saying because how many times I've used that saying since I last spoke to you, I can't even tell you. I must have repeated that maybe 10 times already. It is golden. Do not wait for the ship to come in. Go out and swim to the ship, man. Come on, use your initiative. Like, crikey, what a great saying. Honestly, Greig, that's so great. Yeah, I mean, that's a great story as well, because it just shows, this is not the first time you've done this already. It's just a different product with a different market. And so there's a track record there. But I mean, we also spoke a little bit about this contradiction of startups, big corporates, the culture that's needed for a startup and that in a corporate and sort of, the type of people that you need on board, because I think we both said we've made mistakes of hiring the corporate guys in a startup, and it doesn't always work. And it almost goes to that, this in your values. I know you're going to tell us in a second, but it's another golden nugget, right? Like the type of people you want in your company, and those that drive success for your companies. Not always the experienced guys, the big corporates, but it's a different culture, different mindset you need from people.
Yeah, 100%. And again, I think you definitely pick up a trend. I mean, and mindset is just so critical. And, certainly what we've tried to do is we've tried to bring in experience so that we don't waste time figuring out what to do. We kind of know what to do. It's just about the execution of it. And in general, where do you find experience? In most cases, you find it in people who come out of corporate. But then, because you're a startup, what you also need is you need people who are willing to get their hands dirty. And I don't think it's anyone purposely is vindictive or doesn't want to get their hands dirty. It's just, I suppose some people in their career if they've come through the ranks, they've kind of been there, done that, and operate better managing teams. So, sometimes we've got it right, sometimes we haven't got it right. I'm the first to say I certainly haven't got it right. But in terms of, what we look for is, if we can, first prize is always someone with experience. But, second prize, or very, very closely behind that, is someone with the right attitude. So, you want to find that person that, knows or pushes for that opportunity to, for example, get on stage. And once they're on stage, they'll do the most amazing act. They'll do what it takes to do the most amazing act on stage.
Do what it takes.
Correct. They'll do what it takes. And that kind of leads into our values. And what we've done with values is we've actually got 5 values, but they're more along ways of working. There's many companies where values are simply things that are stuck up on a wall, and they come in the annual financial reports, but they're not really lived. Again, we don't always get this right, but we certainly do strive to try and get it right. And one of our values is on alignment, and alignment for us is like defined as willing to do what it takes versus doing your best. Now, if you think as a small business when you're starting out, if you need to make sales to pay the rent at the end of the month, like, there's no option. You've got to do it. You can't do your best and say, "Oh, sorry guys, I tried my best." You've got to do what it takes. So that's like a way of working that we really strive to get done. Mindset is we break it down quite simply like this: is we want owners and not renters. And what do we mean by that? Well, simply put, if you own a house and the window breaks, like 9 times out of 10 you'll fix it. If you rent a house and the window breaks, you phone the landlord and you say the window's broken. So we strive to have owners, not renters.
This is gold. This is gold, man. I'm telling you, this is why all the simple things are the most important. Anyway, okay, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, this is renters versus owners.
We talk about agility, and again, we define agility as the time taken to convert a challenge into an opportunity. Now, one of the things in a startup, or like, let's say, in a hardship environment, is that you've got to get out your mind and you've got to kind of rid yourself of the mantra, "Chief, is only I could have a great day today. If only everything could just go smoothly today." You've got to break that mantra, and you've got to understand that every day there are going to be challenges. We actually ban the word problem from our business. We've got this big jar. It's called the problem jar. And if you say the word problem, you put 10 Rand in the jar, and we end up donating that to charity at the end of the year. But literally, it's linked again to mindset, and sometimes how you talk is how you think, and that's where agility comes in. So we only have opportunities or challenges. And how quickly can we react to those types of things?
We've got a similar one in the house as well. We've got can't. So there's no such word in the dictionary as can't. Or the whole family laughs at the person who said he can't. Oh, you can't. So
I love it.
Very, very similar. So yeah,
I love it. So those are kind of our values that we try to bring into people, and then it's just, again, what I grapple with is, or what I struggle with is, always just to try to find the time to coach, mentor, make sure that you're leading, make sure that you're motivating, make sure you're giving directions. Because again, as a startup, you're juggling from fundraiser to operations to management. But when you speak to anyone who's been successful and who's done it before, that's just how it is. You are a professional juggler, and you just got to kind of do your best with these things. And specifically, if your business is growing, the way to kind of continue to juggle and not drop balls is to look to put in process and procedure. Because as you grow, you start to juggle more balls. So that process and procedure allows a few of the proverbial balls to settle and be baked into a base or process and procedure, and then the new challenges to hop into your juggling act, for want of a better word.
Yeah, my dad used to always say spinning the plates. You spin one and then you go to the next one, and then the one starts going, and then you go and spin it again, and then and it is a bit of that. Like you sort of ADHD a little bit, like here we go. I mean, look, a lot of people who listen to this podcast are entrepreneurs or they're business execs in organizations. And I mean, we spoke a little bit about the importance of supporting entrepreneurial minded people like yourself in corporates, because the benefit of it. I mean, is there a formula for getting the best out of these entrepreneurs in corporates? Because there's no two ways about it. You're disrupting the status quo. You're disrupting Pepsi and Coke space, right? And you're doing it in a freaking great way. But how do also organizations protect themselves against these disruptions, or how can they get agile against it? How do they leverage these opportunities?
Yeah, so I think if we just talk really generalistically around let's call it multinationals that have been around for a long time, a lot of them are let's say more set in their ways, or have more established business practices, or I suppose take longer to make decisions, or not as agile. And I think history is littered with companies who haven't been able to that word from COVID, pivot fast enough. And it's been to the detriment of the company. I mean, if you think of Kodak and the digital camera as an example, and there's a lot of other examples. The world is changing right before your eyes. And sometimes you've got to make sure you've got people who are a little bit more entrepreneurial in your business, who do take chances. Now, obviously, there's chances that are measured. So I'm not saying go absolutely wild, but you definitely need to invite those people in. And I think certainly in my corporate career, and even to an extent, in this startup, smaller business, these type of people are game changers in your business. They're not there to stay. They're not your 10-year, 20-year get a golden watch type of person. If you've got them for 3 to 4 years in your business, they're going to be that disruptor, that game changer. And if you are able to, as a multinational, keep them engaged across different platforms, then you will keep them in the business. But ultimately, it's almost like they've got ADHD, but they certainly get stuff done. They disrupt stuff. And I suppose one of the core things is not to take it personally if they move on, but rather just celebrate, I suppose, the changes that they've brought in. And I'm not the only one talking like this. If you listen to a number of the global CEOs, I mean, a lot of them are saying, guys, we need to be more agile. We need to be more entrepreneurial like. We need to try attract and be more again agile in market. And I suppose it's also an element of the world is moving and changing so quickly, with Google and social media. Consumers are very much aware of what's going on. And one of the very interesting stats that I heard recently is just with the advent of social media and the way people scroll through social media, it's kind of been linked to the fact that consumers have shorter attention spans. So adverts have got to get shorter. You've got to get your message across quicker. You've got to move more agile. Because if it's not interesting, if you think from a social media point of view, the guys just scroll. They keep going. So I think there's a big role to get these people in, give them their support, but then also understand that they're probably not going to stay around forever.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, we spoke about one element of your success that you felt was really important, and that was relationships.
Yes.
And I mean, does it coincide with, you know, your ability to move and meet people face to face? You call it seeing the whites of their eyeballs, and doing business in the States and being able to do those sort of figures.
Yeah, I think, you know, technology has allowed us to connect on Zoom and Teams, and it certainly has revolutionized the world, and it has made, you know, business that much easier. Like I personally find that there's still no substitute for kind of old school business values, and ultimately, you know, part of my success I've seen is trying to focus and build kind of amazing relationships. And amazing relationships are not what, you know, it's not what it sounds like. You know, sometimes an amazing relationship is, well, you know what, you know, I see Ralf every Thursday at the pub. We have a pizza. You know, we talk about the good old days on bicycles, and you know, and then we go home and we meet next Thursday, and we have an amazing relationship. So, you know, from a business context, an amazing relationship is something where, you know, you can have a nothing unsaid conversation with someone. You understand that your success is probably interdependent on one another. You know, not one way or another. And you know, one of the ways I encourage my team to do this is to look around their ecosystem. So if someone is running a function, look to see who they interact with, and basically rank from 1 to 10 what relationship they have with that person, and be honest. You know, like, I only speak to that person when I have an issue. That's probably a 1. You know, or, you know, it's like, you know, I check in with that person every 3 weeks or 2 to 3 weeks. You know, understand that their wife's having a hard time, but I also give them feedback on the service they've given me, you know, which can go up to 7, 8, 9. So be honest where you are with that relationship, and then set a goal where you want that relationship to be by when, 5, 6, whatever, and then actively go out and work on that relationship. And I think one of the biggest mistakes we all make in business is we generally only reach out to people when we have a terrible word, a problem, you know?
Yeah.
And
that's $10 for you right there. I'm telling you, team.
$10 straight. And that's where you know, amazing relationships come in. You know, rather work on that and let people understand where your business is, what stage you are in. You know, we're in a very high growth business phase. We're in a very cash hungry business, and I'm open, you know, with our partners, guys. This is where we are. This is where we're going. Really appreciate your support, and also, you know, being sincere and saying, you know, really appreciate you supporting us now while we need this support, while we're growing like this. You know, once we've arrived, we will continue to support you on the basis of the relationship that we've had and the support that you've given us. And I can tell you 9 times, or almost 10 times out of 10, it's a better working environment. It helps us accelerate our growth and our ambitions. So I think it's very important.
Yeah, we said beforehand, so I agree with you about the old school thinking, because I mean, we even said earlier that there's a new way of doing business, and I suppose in many ways we're adapting to it as much as young people are adapting to our old ways. But there's some proven, I mean, relationships are so important. You know, 1 + 1 = 3, and that will always be the case because we're humans. And so creating that like mastermind. But yeah, I mean, it's been absolutely amazing talking to you. We were talking earlier about doing the Xterra on the 17th of February. So anyone who wants to join us, I was going to put out like a CEO challenge, right? But that's probably a bit lame. But
no, why don't you be there, right? Why don't you do that? You know, lycra is stretchy, thank goodness. And you know, my missus, I told my missus about this, and I said, "Don't worry, I've still got my old kit." And she laughed, and she said to me, "Listen, Greg, what we're going to do is we're going to buy you new kit, so people don't think like you're a golden oldie that's dusted off the kit." But again, lycra is stretchy, which is fantastic. So why don't we put it out there, Ralf? I mean, it's not about winning; it's about getting it done and having fun.
Okay, having it done. I mean, at one stage I was like, let's do a top 500 triathlon, but you got the Xteras there. But crikey, I think it's great, gets you fit. My dad turns 80 in 3 weeks, and he's doing a mini triathlon himself.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're going to join him with that. But he's been doing the short versions of the Xteras for quite a while, actually. So I think like anyone can do it. Get fit, get out there. But we're going to be there, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, if my hips don't cave in, but
I'll push you in a wheelchair. We'll do it as a tandem.
But geez, what a pleasure doing this podcast with you. The last question really is, we joked and said, what does success look like? And you said to me, well, I'll phone you from the beach and then I know. And, but I mean, what does success look like for PURA right now?
So let me give you the ambition. So I fundamentally believe that this brand can be the next billion-dollar brand. So I think ultimate success would be, this brand totally being recognized globally, and being up there as one of the billion-dollar brands. Now, I'd love to still be part of the business, at that stage of the journey, but that's ultimately what it would look like for me within the brand. And I suppose, from a business point of view, we, as a growing business, we always strive for that positive EBITDA. And we get close, and then we go into another market, or we grow, and then we invest a bit more, and then it gets a bit further away. So, positive EBITDA would also be a fantastic accolade, as as certainly we've arrived, and we have that on the horizon, and it's something that we're chasing hard.
Cool, man. Well, it's great to speak to you, and maybe we go for a cycle sometime soon and try and drag Tim along with us. But all the best for the future. It was great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Ralf. Appreciate your time, and what a pleasure talking and just having a great conversation. Thank you.